excited. I'm very excited for it, for sure.
Sounds amazing. Right up my alley. Hopefully I don't show off too much on the dance floor when the line dancing happens. Try to keep it to a dull roar.
Please don't. Please don't. We're going to need that one person that everybody's like following. I don't want it to be me, please.
Probably hyping myself up too much now.
Welcome back to another Women in Automotive edition of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. You already know it is me, Shasta Haddock. I am so excited to be working with Women in Automotive to promote the speakers that they are going to have at this year's event and to give you guys a little bit more of an insight on what you will be seeing once you attend, who you'll be hearing from, the sessions that you want to attend, because sometimes all you see is a name on a sheet and you're like, I don't know who that person is. I don't know if that session is going to be that interesting. So here I am. I'm going to be giving you some insight into some of these speakers, and Jacki has the pleasure of being my very first one. So I would like to introduce you to Jacki Lutz. She is the Director of Content for the Auto Care Association, and she's also a very first time Women in Automotive attendee and first time speaker at Women in Automotive. So Jacki, welcome. Hello.
Thank you, Shasta. This is so exciting. I've been following you on LinkedIn for a while now, so this is very fun.
I love this. You were so fast. I think so. I sent out an email to each of the speakers to get things scheduled. Like Jacki was the only one that did it same day. The only one. And so I was like, all right, she's on top of her stuff.
Because I'm a podcaster. I've been where you are.
Yeah. So you have a podcast and you've been doing it. You're getting ready to hit your 1 year mark, which is huge. So that's like 1% of podcasters make it past, I think it's 6 months or something like that. What has your experience been with learning how to podcast? And you jumped straight into it as soon as you joined this company too.
Yep, it's been drinking from a fire hose, but honestly, I absolutely love it. It's kind of like one of those like things. Like I've never worked harder in my whole life. It was a very stressful first year. I think you get the highlight reel, on LinkedIn and stuff, but it's a very stressful first year. But every single step of the way, I think I had a smile on my face and happy to be doing it. And you know what? When you're working really hard, but you still have energy at the end of the day because you're doing something you love. That was kind of the last year for me. Very fun.
Yep. I say all the time, it's the most fun I've ever had not making $1. Because like I of course have my full-time job, but like the podcast doesn't really pay me for anything, and we don't really monetize on it, and so it's like most fun I've ever had. I
think you find out quickly if it's for you, because if you don't have the passion for it, I think it's pretty easy to bow out. It's been really fun.
You have a really interesting structure with yours too. So you're not the only one that contributes to it. You have 4 different segments that you guys do, but you have your own, and I want you to talk about that one.
Yeah, sure. So we have 4 shows underneath the name of Auto Care on Air. Auto Care on Air is the podcast, and then we have 4 shows. So each show is once a month, usually. Sometimes, mine especially will pick up some slack, but mine's called Carpool Conversations, and mine is all about professional development. And we'll take, a couple of our most engaged members or members that have, a really good skill and just have them sit around and talk about a professional development skill. So we've hit on stuff like, work-life balance or how to advocate for yourself and others, culture type things, communications, leadership, mentorship, all kinds of things like that. And it's just been really fun to get well-known members that we have, and some vets, mix them up with some newbies and have these fun conversations, getting these people to talk about things that we've never heard them talk about before. So it's just been a really fun year.
Well, and it's a lot of times you get these higher names onto podcasts, and everybody has the same conversation with them, and we never really get to learn who they are personally. Like what is your work-life balance? We are all so busy. How do you find time to make sure that you're spending time with your family? What are you doing to empower your team members? So they're very important conversations that had to be had. And at the end of the day, like, it's not all about what you do professionally, because we all know personal branding is what sells. And that is a perfect tie-in to what you're speaking about at Women in Automotive, which is personal branding and employee generated content, which I'm very excited for. And as long as my session is not at the same time as yours, I'm absolutely going to be there.
Well,
but
good.
I want you to talk about kind of what triggered you to want to talk about this at Women in Automotive.
Oh my goodness. I have been talking about this subject, the personal branding part of this, I have been talking about for years. I started right actually during COVID. I did my first session on personal branding. Women in Auto Care, our women's group, asked me to speak on it. And I was like, me? Like, what? I had to like Google personal branding. I had no idea what it was. But, they saw that I had a strong personal brand. And I was like, I have one. Like, how did I do it? And, I really broke this down into the session that I'm going to give. And honestly, since it came to my attention, I've started talking about this stuff at events like this and then started working on it for myself. It's taken my career to places I never knew it would go. It's just like, it's an amazing way to build your network beyond who you're going to see. I work 100% from home. So I rely on my personal brand virtually to take me anywhere I need to go in this career. Right. So, it has literally, it's changed my life. Creating a strong personal brand and something I talk about very openly now because I can get through it without crying, but like,
this episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your number one outsourced BDC solution. Learn more about Epic BDC by checking out the link in the bio.
Over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, I got laid off from a company I was with for over 10 years. And I got to take this personal brand with me. And it is why I got picked up right away. And it's why I get to do what I'm doing now. So, I always say in my session, like, if you're not going to do it to bring your company up, if you're not going to do it to bring your industry up, do it for yourself, because this is something that you'll have in your own little briefcase that you can bring with you wherever you go. And it's going to speak for you in rooms that you're not in. It's going to build a network in rooms that you're not in. And, it's just, I think it's honestly one of the most important things you can do. I don't know why they don't teach it in college, frankly.
Right. Well, and I want to break this down on a little bit more molecular level for our listeners. How do they know if they have a good personal brand?
I think if people start, if people start talking about you in rooms you're not in, when I'm in this session, I'm not going to give too much away, but there's really this push and there's a pull marketing. Any marketer would know what I'm talking about, but there's pushing, when you're constantly raising your hand, when there's a board seat open and they're like, we need someone good at marketing. Let's see if Jacki's available before we put this out to anybody else, but pushing is when you're raising your hand and saying, I'd love to be considered, right? A promotion at work, I would love to be considered. A speaking opportunity, I would love to be considered. You're doing a good job when you're getting the pull. So when that open seat, they're like, let's see if Jacki's available, before we put this out to anybody else. Or there's a speaking opportunity, somebody wants personal branding and somebody in the crowd says, oh, I know somebody, right? I follow her on LinkedIn. Let's get Jacki Lutz in here. That's how you're doing a good job. When you do the work that we'll go through in my session and you kind of put forth that little bit of effort to answer certain questions and exactly who you're trying to portray out there, who you're trying to be to the world, and you're doing it properly, you'll start to be known for exactly what you want to be known for and start getting opportunities, which is really the whole point of personal branding, is getting the opportunities that you want.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important for everybody in our business. I mean, I think of somebody, even a service advisor or a salesperson at a dealership, that you constantly want to stay top of mind. The second that somebody hears, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to replace my car soon, or my lease is ending soon, and you want to be the name that they spit out. Oh, you have to go see Shasta over here at Roper Kia. She is going to take the absolute best care of you. She did the best for me. She's a dog person, which we love. She's, she's got kids, she's a mom, she gets all of it. So I know she'll take really good care of you. So those are the things, is staying top of mind. And it's almost a full-time job in and of itself, right?
It kind of is. It's something that you can't, you won't leave my session with a bow tied around your personal brand and then you take that to the world for the rest of your life. It's something that you constantly have to assess. And something that I talk about in my session is, you always have 3 or 4 themes to your brand. And because those can always change. If you throw your whole brand at one of them, then when that one goes away, if it goes away, then what is your brand standing on at that point, right? So if you have
Right.
3 or 4 things, like it just has to continue to grow with you. Being a working mom became one of mine. That wasn't always part of my personal brand, but it's something that I wanted to talk about, to professionals and show them the side that nobody wants to see, and talk about those kinds of things, and make myself more human. It's just like a company. You want to, what do you do when you build a company's brand? You want to build trust. You want to build awareness of your brand. That awareness piece is what you're talking about, where you want people to say your name in rooms you're not in. They want that awareness piece. There's also the trust piece. Like, you can be known for things you don't want to be known for either, and you got to make sure you check yourself. That
Yeah.
that brand trust, that showing up every day with consistency, that's all stuff that companies think of, and it's exactly how you should approach your personal brand.
Well, and it's so huge. And I think when we look at, having this session out women in automotive, I think women, and I'm trying not to loop everybody into a basket here, but we have a tendency to when we're trying to promote ourselves professionally, to stop promoting ourselves personally, because, we'll look again back at the automotive industry. It is a heavily male dominated industry. And so when you think, okay, well, on Facebook and LinkedIn, 80% of my contacts are men. And so are they really going to care that my daughter just won her softball tournament, or, just did really good in a track meet? Are they really going to care?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a tendency to like smush ourselves down because of that and try to only be professional all the time. But my favorite saying in the world, no one is going to watch a TV channel that's nothing but commercials.
Yep.
You have to have content in there.
Yep. And I think you can create a wonderful, helpful, inspirational message out of anything. I think that the key, really, especially with platforms like LinkedIn, is to just make you going to your daughter's soccer game, or whatever your content might be. Why does that matter to other people? It's not just that you went, right? Why was it important to you? It's because you're maybe a busy working mom and you have a lot of stuff going on, and you decided to put that first that day. Like, that's things that people are going to resonate with, and that's not stuff companies can talk about in their branding. And that's why having employee generated content is so effective, because it's the humans behind your brand. That's not AI.
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
That is human emotion and human connection. And that's what employees can do that companies can't do. So the things that you think make you weak, or the things that you think, people don't want to hear, is actually exactly what we need to see on places like LinkedIn. The things that aren't AI generated, and the things that, companies struggle because, Auto Care Association can go out there all day and be like, we're a great place to work. But do you believe it until you see an employee showing some of the culture of that company, and them saying, oh no, this is a great place to work? That means a lot more to humans, than the company saying it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, heck, one of the things that we started doing a little while back is celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, like especially anniversaries, like anniversary with the company. And, when you start seeing those people that have been there for 4, 5, 10, 15 years, like that means something, because it's like, okay, if people are sticking around that long, obviously there's something worth sticking around for, but it's something that a lot of companies don't think about.
And there's a quote that I shared too about you can't be the best place to buy if you're not the best place to work. And, that's something that employee generated content solves for companies, and it's so funny. So much has changed over the past, I would say, 5 years. Is that, especially even when I started doing this, there was a lot of apprehensiveness. Like, if I go on LinkedIn, my company's going to think that I'm looking for a job, or they're going to be, they don't want me to, because they don't want me to say something wrong, or whatever. But, and then companies were really scared. They're like, we don't want our employees going out there like, we can't control it. What if they get political? What if they say something that gets us in trouble? Like all these kind of parameters. But recently, man, I think employers want this. Employers want their employees out there speaking. You can put these kind of guidelines. We talk about that in my session. What kind of guidelines can you put out? How do you talk to your boss about it? How do you show your boss what you're trying to do? But I think companies are starting to see employees with great personal brands that people trust in their industry. And with those names, they go out there and people listen. People will listen to those messages, and it's really well worth it. And it's pretty much free for companies. A little bit of
Right.
training goes a long way. And it's kind of an exciting time. And there's a lot of room in our industry for people to get out there and create personal brands for themselves.
Yeah. And LinkedIn is such a good place to do it. I mean, it doesn't have all of the ads that Facebook has or all of the like you said, the political stuff. Like sometimes I go to LinkedIn just to escape from Facebook because I mean, my generation, we're heavy on Facebook. I say that, but then I find other people my age are heavier on Instagram and I'm like, I don't use Instagram at all. Don't get on to me.
It's hard. Ugh,
I don't get it. Like I've never been that person that's heavy on Instagram and I'm like, there's so many bots. It's just like TikTok. Anyway. But yeah, LinkedIn is very good. Like it is, I think, especially business wise, it's turning into the supreme social media platform that, where we're having the best connections and the most true connections. And it all starts with, I mean, you have to have a brand. Who are you? Because I'll say my perspective on it is I have times where a dealership will ask me like, hey, we need to redo our website. Who do you know? And I'll be like, man, I know all of these people and I could know 15 people who do websites, but I don't know that's what they do because they don't say it. They're not staying top of mind. They're scrolling the feed, but they're not engaging. They're not talking about themselves, the brand, anything like that. And so I have no way of knowing. And then their description in their LinkedIn has so many letters. It's like the alphabet spelled out. And you're like, I don't know what any of that means. Like, I know what it stands for. I don't know. What does it mean to me?
Yeah. My biggest pet peeve is because I'm not great with names. I try. But someone will be like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I immediately go to LinkedIn and I type in their name and I can say yes or no, And my biggest pet peeve is when there's no photo. There's no cover photo. There's like nothing filled out, but just a name. I'm like, I don't know if that's the one that I'm looking for or not. Like, I don't know if I know this person. Like, if you're not on LinkedIn in this professional world, you're an unknown person outside of people that you see in person. So it's such a no-brainer to get yourself out there. And if at the very least, fill out your profile, put out I kind of go through these steps in my session, of just like the basics. And then like, how do you take it up a notch, and I think too, like, everyone talks about a content strategy, but there's also a comment strategy. And it's kind of like what you're talking about how important it is to engage with your network too, to stay on top of mind. So we kind of go through like those kinds of things in the session as well.
Oh, this is going to be such a good session. I have one question that now it's just left my brain, of course, because I was getting ready to ask it, and that's the best time for it to leave my brain. I wanted it to be like the one thing you could give away outside of the session. Oh, I know what it is because it applies to me. It applies to me. So one of the things that I've been working on the last several months, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. There has to be somebody else out there, even if there's only one of you, but I know there's at least one of you. So when we are so heavy, I mean, on the marketing side, the sales side, anybody who is in that position in their company, you're, obviously using social, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, to promote your business. How do you also throw your personal brand in there when, like, I personally operate on five different companies? Yes, 5 different companies that I have to also represent. How do you balance it? How do you know when enough is enough, or if you're balanced properly? Like, how do you know what that balance is?
This episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
So you're saying like your company, there's a message for your company and how to put your personal brand behind it? Is that what you're asking?
That too, like making sure that you're also staying personal, like you're maintaining your personal brand without letting your professional brand overcome it.
I would say your professional brand or your company is one of those themes, right? So one of my themes is being the content director for the Auto Care Association. So I talk about that. That fits in my brand. I talk about things like that. But the difference is that I don't say the same exact thing that Auto Care would on their LinkedIn, right?
Right.
They'll say, hey, we have our, legislative summit coming up. Be there. These are the dates, whatever. And like, I'll go on and I'll do a video or I'll share a picture of me from there last year with a selfie. And I'll talk about my personal experience at this event
I love that.
and why I think my network would benefit from that. So it's just not that cookie cutter message. It's more like, okay, this is Jacki, and Jackie's saying that when she went, she met a bunch of people. She got to see how, America runs behind the scenes. She got to see the Capitol, got to see, democracy in action. There's all these like personal connections that you can make with people. That's going to be wildly more engaging and more connection. There's going to be way more connection than what you're going to get from your company. And, again, you have 3 other themes. So maybe like for me, like one of them is being the content director for the Auto Care Association. Another one is being a working mom. Another one is personal branding and this whole kind of conversation and how I always back that up. Another one has become the podcast. So there's just, you can kind of choose what those themes are and what you really want to be known for. And ultimately the goal is, again, those opportunities. The opportunities I'm looking for are things like this. Being able to spread the word on podcasts, being able to be a speaker at something, if there's an open seat that I can contribute to, I want to know about those things. So everything that I do in my themes are guiding me and guiding people to me for the opportunities that I'm looking for in my career and in my life. So that's kind of the steps that we'll take in the session and be like, what are those things for you? A lot of people struggle with LinkedIn because it's not Instagram. So it's not a picture of your lunch. It has to be something professional and something that's really helpful content and more thought leadership, things like that. But it doesn't have to be that scary. And if you're talking about things that are very important to you and you're passionate about, and you have this guiding light of what you're trying to do, your content starts to flow pretty naturally. And once you get comfortable and you realize that people are not expecting perfection, people don't even want perfection, the human element is wonderful. If you do a video and you say 32 times, I counted one time. 32 times I said but I put it out there, and that video did just as good as the ones where I was trying to not say So like it's not as scary as people think it is. I think it used to be more of like a human resources thing where like this is where you go to find a job or this is where you go to look for people looking for jobs. It's become a social media network for humans trying to connect with each other, trying to get each other to the opportunities that they're looking for. There's a lot of cool ways to do it. But yeah, we'll kind of go through them.
Yeah, LinkedIn's very exciting, and I've noticed I track a lot of my LinkedIn analytics, and I find that the more personal I am, the better my content performs. That I try to be professional all the time and have professional conversations because it's LinkedIn, it's for business. But honestly, the personal stuff does better. It's what people want to know about you, and you don't want to just blend into an advertising wall.
Right. It's what's going to separate you from anyone else on there. And honestly, I see the same thing. Every like maybe 1 or 2 Fridays out of the month, I usually do more of like a personal message, and it's more inspirational or something that I'm thinking about or something I learned from my child that week or something more personal. Right. And those always do wildly better than the 2-minute video I put out and really had a lot of thought behind, earlier in the week. I always get people want that kind of stuff. And I think, we always put out our highlight reel on social media, and LinkedIn's really no different. They see you, like if you start being more active on LinkedIn, they're going to see you at this event. They're going to see that you won this award or whatever it is you're talking about. I think showing the human side is the key that most people don't think is relevant on LinkedIn, but I literally think that is the key to LinkedIn.
Yeah, I agree. So you mentioned earlier before we were recording that part of your branding is that you're always recording in front of your book wall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's obviously right behind you right now, which if you're just listening and not watching, you don't know that. But I'm telling you, she's in front of a wall of a lot of books. Have you read all of these books?
Negative. No.
Okay. I was going to say that's a lot of
No,
books.
I've read a lot of them. I was a big reader up until I had children. I was always reading everything. Behind me is my self-help part of my library. And I've read a lot of them, but no, not nearly all of them, not even close. Probably 5% of them. It's a pretty tall wall.
So what would you say is your go-to book you recommend to people, professionally and then personally, like two different books?
I have 2. well, maybe this is the professional one, is Simon Sinek, Starts with Why. It is such a good, I think it's his first book, his first or second book. So it's a little older now, actually. I read it when it first came out. But it works really well with personal branding too, because you should start the problem with why, and then work backwards. And it kind of teaches you how to do that and why that's so important to remember why you're doing what you're doing. It's the same thing with personal branding, those opportunities. That's the why.
Mm-hmm.
So remember what the opportunities are that you're looking for and make sure that you're portraying yourself in a way that's going to get you those. And then the other one is The Four Agreements. Have you heard of this book?
I don't think I have.
It's really, really good. It's a good personal book, but it goes through.
You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
Four different agreements you can make with yourself that it's going to help you in almost every single area of your life. One of them is like not taking things personally. That is an agreement that you make with yourself. So if you look at that through all the different lenses that it points out for you, it really helps you look at life differently. It helps you look at LinkedIn differently. When someone doesn't like your content, like I'm like you, I pay very close attention to my analytics because I want to see what works and what's resonating with people. And I can see when, I put out a post and I got 15 followers from it, but I lost one. And to just remember, don't take it personally. Don't stop doing something. It's just something, your content wasn't for somebody, and that's okay. Yeah. Like there's a lot of people out there that the content just isn't for you. I've done the same thing. Somebody keeps showing up in my feed all the time and I just am not interested in what they're saying. I'm not interested in their industry. I'm not interested in their, their theme, whatever that is. So, I'll unfollow them. So it's the same thing. But yeah, there's 4 agreements in there. You got to read the book. Very, very good.
Do you know who the author of Four Agreements is?
I'm going to have to, I don't know. I really wish I did. I wonder if I can find it.
So I can at least get it out here. Let's see. I type fast.
It starts with why.
Is it A Practical Guide to Personal Freedom?
Yeah, I think it is. It's Don Miguel Ruiz. Ruiz?
Yeah, that was the one I found.
It's really, really good. And this is the second book, Mastery of Self.
Oh, nice. The part you were talking about is not taking things personally. So I'm reading audiobook, but Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins right now.
Oh.
I didn't know that she was the reason that went super viral on social media, like the Let Them Tattoo, the Let Them Teach shirts, all of the Facebook posts. So it was something that Mel, I think she said she started with a podcast or talked about it or made a post on social media, something like that. And then it exploded. So then she wrote the book, The Let Them Theory, and the psychology of letting go and not taking things personally and how it actually affects you physically, scientifically to your core. And so it's actually a really good book. That one is personally and professionally is really good. I recommend that one.
I love anything Mel Robbins does. So
I love her voice. That's the cool thing about the audiobook is getting to hear her talk about it in her voice and hearing her laugh. And sometimes she does this snap and you can hear the snap in the background. I'm like, I can visualize all of this right now. Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So Women in Automotive is coming up August 3rd through 6th. Are you going to be there for the whole conference?
I think so. I'm going to try to make it work. I have a obligation up until that Sunday night. So I'm hoping to get on the first flight out Monday and then, hopefully. It's in Nashville, so exciting, right? I'm thinking,
yes, Nashville.
Yeah, I'd love to spend more time in Nashville if I can.
I know. I actually haven't ever been there. I think I went to Memphis as a kid, but I've never been to Nashville, and so I'm excited. It is a very exciting town. I don't hear a lot of bad stories about it. New Orleans, on the other hand, when we went for NADA, I probably would not take my kids there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
me and my husband might just to go see some sights and stuff like that. Would not take my kids there.
Like country music?
Nowadays, country music, not so much, but early 2000s and late 90s, I would say yes.
There's some good 90s country bars out there, but very, very fun. And I think they kind of shut the street down at night. I don't know. I guess I don't know on a Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but it's such a good city. And there's so much historical stuff there too, or just cool, the Grand Ole Opry. If you can catch a show, you should, because those are interesting though. You never know who's going to be there until you get the ticket.
Mhm.
which is
I know I'm very excited for this one and getting to see Nashville and play and maybe get to go to some country bars. And I heard something, this might be a little board member insight, but I heard something about organized line dancing. So
oh my gosh, I know like 150 line dances. I'm ready.
so I think we're incorporating it into the conference. I don't know if it's solid for sure, but it's definitely being talked about. So that will be so interesting to see if we can get all of these women together in an organized line
Oh my
dance.
goodness, it'll be so much fun. Like there's different levels, do an easy one, but it's such a good way to get people to dance and get out on the floor when you know the steps. It's why the cha-cha slide and the Cupid shuffle are so big. It's like people don't know how to dance. So like tell them the steps. And I love line dancing. I used to do it all the time growing up. I'm in Michigan too. It's not like it's big here, but we had a country line dancing bar that every Thursday night you could go and line dance. So we learned all of them. So
Oh man. See, I grew up in a skating rink, so like I could do the cha-cha slide and Cupid shuffle in my sleep. But then there's other ones like the country ones. I never learned Cotton Eye Joe, which I feel embarrassed to say. I never learned I think there's a Brooks and Dunn one, Boot Scoot Boogie. Does that have its own dance?
Yeah, I don't even know that one. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that one either. There's several of them that I'm like, okay, I need to just like shut up and learn this. But yeah. I think it's going to be very exciting. I'm very excited for it, for sure.
Sounds amazing. Right up my alley. Hopefully I don't show off too much on the dance floor when the line dancing happens. Try to keep it to a dull roar.
Please don't. Please don't. We're going to need that one person that everybody's like following. I don't want it to be me, please.
I'm probably hyping myself up too much now. Now
you're going to get there and be like, oh, no, I don't want to do this. If somebody wants to connect with you ahead of the conference or talk with you a little bit more before they get a chance to see you, I'm going to guess LinkedIn, but what's the best way to connect?
I think LinkedIn's probably the best place to start. If it's, a quick call or something like that, we can go from there. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Best place.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And I'm so excited to hear you speak of women in automotive. I will definitely be in your session and taking all the notes because this is something I want to improve on myself. But I'm going to see you in August. I'm very excited for it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me on, Shasta. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person.
Me too. It's going to be so exciting. Guys, be sure to get your ticket to Women in Automotive if you haven't yet. And be sure to show up in Jacki's session. Follow her on all the socials, especially LinkedIn. Connect with her. I promise you won't regret it. Until next time, have a great day.